So welcome everyone. My name is Aesha Kennedy, Feminine Creative Power. We're going to be talking about Shakti, creative power. And the reason I'm doing this series and inviting guests on is that I really feel it's a beautiful time to invoke and invite the Shakti creative power into our lives now. Whether you're a woman or a man, we all have this innate power within us. And it's a different kind of power than what we've been seeing, what we've been experiencing in the world today. And what I feel is this beautiful shift that's happening where we're moving from the ego-driven power, the head, and into the heart, into this beautiful space of the heart, and coming into our true power and stepping into it and not being afraid of it. So my guest today, I'm very excited to introduce Chantal Vanderhaeghen, and she is a confidence mentor and intuitive guide. And we're going to talk about something really interesting today, which is why I invited her on. We're going to be talking and exploring about the power of destruction and transformation. And I think that's a very timely and meaningful topic to discuss right now. And I know we all love transformation, but what about the destruction part? How can we handle that? So I'm going to let Chantel take over now. She's going to introduce herself to you and just talk a little bit of what this means to her in her personal story and how it's come into her life. This whole powerful emanation of destruction and transformation. Thank you, Chantel, for joining me today.
Thank you. My pleasure, Aesha. And just love these conversations that we are creating. And when you popped up and requested what could talk about, and it instantly came to me, destruction and transformation. I was quite surprised because destruction is a very powerful word and can be a negative word as well. And discomfort, I was like, oh, what is this? What would this mean? But it was very strong. And I think it's coming back to something that's why I love what you do in the Shakti, beautiful feminine energy, and how I work with it is it's listening to your intuition. So this came to me very powerfully, and I knew, okay, I needed to look at it and not even question it, and then allow it to evolve from there. So we had a few days to think about, what does this mean, destruction and transformation? Because like you said, we all love the idea of transformation, but we don't necessarily like the idea of the destruction to get to the transformation. And you asked me, we talked about what books I'd read, and one book in particular that really stood out for me, and I read it twice, was Pema Chodron, is an American nun Buddhist, and she wrote When Things Fall Apart. And a friend had lent it to me, and then I had to buy it after her husband had died unexpectedly. And she just came back and said, oh my gosh, Chantal, this is the most amazing book to read. And I happened to read it as my late sister-in-law was dying. And we didn't have a good relationship in her lifetime, in 30 years. And it was a very powerful book because it made me look at the discomfort that we feel in life, that we experience in life, that we often ignore. And that can be from childhood trauma, which I've had, my own father's death, a car accident that I had that led me to where I am now. And what this book showed me was, and I suppose it's also like 12-step programs, you've got to hit your own rock bottom. And when you hit your own rock bottom, that's often when you suddenly go, that's it, no more, I have to change. But that is also personal, because you think you've hit your rock bottom, but sometimes you still want to ignore that. So you have to go further. And sometimes you just come to the point. I know for me, when it really first started was when I had a complete and utter breakdown. It was after my father's death. I'd still been going, still trying to deal with his death, dealing with the trauma of the unexpectedness of the not being able to say goodbye, of not being able to heal, the healing that, the trauma, the violence from my childhood. So at about 5 years later, I ended up in hospital. I had no clue, Aesha, who I was. I had no, so it was a total and complete utter break. I couldn't even sign the documents. I couldn't even put the words together to actually sign off that I was in hospital. And that really, really frightened me. Yet, that still didn't stop me. I still had to keep going. And I think as women, we are trained to keep going, to keep being out there for someone else, ignore how we really feel. you know.
Yeah, that's a
So
really powerful point. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
I want to take a breath on that because that's a really important point. And for the listeners and people who are watching this, um, what you mentioned about discomfort and wanting to just ignore it and be there for other people, like what have you done to be able to override that? How have you been able to be with discomfort?
Do you know, reading that book, so I'll come back to that book, it's also, she goes on the Buddhist philosophies or what teachings or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's also like with you in psychology, you have to sit, quite, take the time, make the time, whether that be on your own, or you can also get professional help. So I've also had help from a psychologist. You've got to sit with the most uncomfortablest, awfulest feelings that you have. And that's what she says. You've got to sit and breathe. So acknowledge you feel angry, acknowledge you feel hurt, all those things that we actually don't, because nice girls don't feel like that, Aesha, remember? We are not allowed to feel like that.
Mm.
And particularly perhaps our generation and up, when I've been talking to my mum about what's happening at life now and my grandmothers and that, what they went through, Aesha, and never talked about, we are also carrying that. I do believe that. So
Yeah.
for me talking to you, it's an honor for me to sit here to also acknowledge our ancestors, our generational, because I now have the opportunity to change that. So coming back to sitting in that discomfort, so it means I need to sit with shame. I need to sit with I'm not enough. I need to sit with all those things that make us, we don't want to show the world, let alone ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is what, this is the journey from head to heart, because the head is telling us, no, just buck up, come on, push through. No, you're not really feeling this. This is, and really this journey of what you're saying that Pema is talking about in her book, and a message for all of us in this time is to just, even if that means putting your hands on your heart and just feeling that discomfort, because it's the only way through to that transformation. This is my own experience that I'm talking about, but I know I've talked with a lot of other people, and this discomfort, we always are trying to avoid it and put out this, this mask of we're okay. And it's a time now for us to just, this is our power, dropping in and feeling and being with whether that's discomfort or whether that's pleasure, but really just being and owning that's where we are. So this is what I'm hearing you and your beautiful, story and telling us about, the transformation, that necessary part of being with those uncomfortable or discomfort feelings. Yeah.
Thank you for honoring that. I really appreciate that, because it's time we honor each other in this. And like what we're doing here, what I'm loving about this is we are witnessing each other with respect, with love, with acceptance. Because again, we are taught, don't not only express the negativity, or as you said, the discomfort, because people actually don't know what to do with it. We actually don't know what to do with it. So we either move away or we shy away. But something I was taught when I was learning to meditate, and then my meditation teacher to teach me teaching, he gave me a really good thing to do. Most of us are numb to our feelings, or we actually don't know how to even say, we actually don't even know how to describe it. So he taught me how to name what I was feeling. So coming back to what you're saying and how I did it. So I sat quietly, come back to my breath. Now I will put my hand on my heart. I didn't have that at the time, because like you said, here to here. Then you just sit quietly and you name it. Now that's where the discomfort comes in, because you actually want to name. Well, I can remember when I had to name that I was enraged, or I was enraged. That was the hardest thing I ever did. But once you can say it, it's like, oh, okay. Then the next step was to acknowledge that I was feeling whatever it was, rage, resentment. Because I never thought I was a resentful person. No way. No, when that came up, it was a shock. So these things, this is why you also need not only to hold yourself in this space, but perhaps to have support to hold you in this space, because it can be extremely confronting to you, then the next step was accept. I just accepted I'm feeling angry. And what that did for me was it took me out of the intensity of the experience and the drama of it and this whoa all over the place, to go, okay, I just dropped. Okay, I accept I'm angry. Okay, I'm angry. It's okay. Then that's when the transformation can happen. Because what you
Yeah.
do is you then, oh, sorry, go on.
No. I'm just
Thank
saying, yes, I'm agreeing.
Thank you. 'Cause I get so excited. I love it. And I love sharing, because it's also making me aware of how far we can come in our lives, that we can all do this. And that if we can see someone else has done that, it gives you the courage to actually know that you're not, I can do this too. So when you've done that, so when I was able, then you can, what you call emptying it out. So you create this empty space, because in that emptiness is everything. So then I could start filling it up. Now, it took me a while to actually understand that I am lovable, I am kind, I'm gorgeous, I'm attractive, I'm confident, I'm this. And that is a process in itself. But you're leaving yourself open to allowing this beautiful side of you to come in. Then the last step I had was, which is actually even more recent, was actually to, instead of seeing it as my enemy and I want to get rid of it, I actually now have it as part of me. So my anger or anxiety or whatever stands with me here. And I actually took a photo the other day, and I'm going to post it on Facebook, of when I was walking, my shadow was actually right next to me. And I know that's my shadow side. It was next to me and slightly behind me. And that was a beautiful representation of, yes, it's there because when I'm no longer aligned, like particularly at the moment with what's happening in the world, I have gone in, it's triggered my PTSD initially, and my anxiety. And mum having to go into full lockdown. She's 91. How will I see her? So it's triggered some stuff for me. So what it did, the anxiety came to the fore. Now, instead of going, oh, I just went, thank you, anxiety, for being there, because it was showing me that I had dropped out of alignment, that I dropped out of my heart. So I went, thank you very much, breath. Now, this sounds simplistic. And then I just went, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I'm anxious at the moment, and that is okay. So then I could put it back. And it's just with me now. So I can carry that anxiety with me, but not let it dictate my life. Because it's just how I am at this point in time. And then each day, it gets less and less. And today, I'm okay. I'm feeling really good.
Yeah. Thank you. That is so, that's a beautiful process. Particularly when you were talking about, not trying to get rid of, I think that, we're hardwired to move to pleasure and move away from pain. And this is the nature of our duality and our humanness, being in a dualistic world. But once you recognize it, and I think this is what you sort of talking about mindfulness and presence here, when we recognize that there are two things, we're moving to pleasure, we want to get rid of pain or discomfort or anything that's uncomfortable, when we can step back from that duality a little bit, and instead of trying to push things away like we do, like what those steps are is just allowing to be there. And so instead of pushing it, all the energy is like pushing, and there's a lot of energy to push things away, that we just then let it be there. And then, as you said, there's this beautiful space or emptiness that opens up, and other things can come through, and we can feel that connection to our heart again. We can feel connected to everything, and not having all our energy focused on, even when it's unconscious, pushing away. So yeah, thank you so much. That's really, really helpful.
It's my pleasure. And as I was watching you sort of like mirroring it back to me, what I could also see was, and this is a good point that you made, the more we push something, as you said, the more energy we use, but also the more we actually enhance the experience. This is what we don't realize. So when you can sit in it, despite the discomfort, it shortens the healing process, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, because because the more you focus on it, or the more you don't want it, the more you're focusing on it, the more, as you said, the energy that you use.
Yeah. And there's so much power in being able to be with both, things that are pleasurable and things that are uncomfortable. There's so much space and openness, and that's when we step into our power. That's when a power that is greater than us has a chance to come in and guide us. And you mentioned intuition before, which is an important component of being able to step into your power fully, is to get an intuitive knowing. And you said without questioning it. So I just want to pick that apart a little bit. So for people who aren't used to using their intuition and they've been in the head and now maybe they're going into this journey from head to heart, which requires intuition, it requires feeling. How do you not question things? How do you know?
Well, that's a really good question, Aisha, because I still do question. And I think part of it is also personalities initially. I mean, looking back now over the years, I've been intuitive for a long time. And when I was doing my Reiki mastership and we were talking about the hypersensitivity that I have that came from my childhood, and I always saw that as a negative because I'm easily hurt. I'm very vulnerable. She did a beautiful reframe and turned it around. And that is why you are so good at what you do. Okay, so there's that aspect. So when she gave me permission to honor that, so I hadn't owned it and I hadn't felt it. And it was also, so that coming back to personality, that's right. Plus I'm Capricorn, so I'm very much the grounded, I'm here, this is material, you know, things like that. So I had this duality going on in me that I had just had it there. So I didn't question it, but I didn't know how to also use it in the way that I am now. So I think it's a personal experience, and I'm sort of trying to work out how would I word this. I think it's that an example is, you know, you're thinking of someone and then they call you. That seems to be the one that most people resonate with. There's just something there, you're thinking about a person. So, or it might be, I need to phone so-and-so now. What you do is you actually then act on it, because most of us don't act on these. So that's a very simple example. We don't act on, oh, yeah, came to me. And the more that you go, okay, I need to phone my mum or my niece or my friend, you actually do it. You'll often hear, oh, thank God you phoned me. I've been thinking of you. And each time you listen to your gut, you strengthen that. So then when you sit quietly, you open yourself up, you meditate, yoga, creative art, whatever it might be, you then allow these problem solving things come in or ideas come in, or it really helps you open up to, you know what, I need to do this instead of that. That is when you start listening to your intuition. And then, as I said, it just strengthens and grows from there to the point where, yeah, I still have my moments. I still question things, particularly when I'm not in alignment, particularly when I'm in fear or in anxiety or I'm overtired. So it's about learning, how do I care for myself? So again, ladies, we are so not taught to care for, you know, be caring of self. I prefer caring of self.
Yeah.
So I now know that when I'm out of sorts, it's either I haven't slept well or haven't eaten well or haven't done exercise or whatever, it's personal, whatever I need to do for me. That's when the ego comes in. That's when the negativity comes in. That's when I start going, oh, you're not good enough. You're not this, you're not that. Okay. But now you'll find the more you do this, you're less in that negativity and you're more in this most beautiful, positive, feminine, because if you feel it, I really begin to feel it now, you know, feeling that Shakti power, feeling that energy. And it was foreign to me in the beginning too. When I first got to know you and heard about this Shakti power, I was like, oh, what's she talking about? See, because that was my shadow. That was just too airy fairy. So I could still do it, and I meant to be intuitive. You know, I used to go, oh my God, what she, you know. But something kept bringing me back. Apart from you, because I love who you are. There was just I honored you and honored your process. I honored, and that gave me then permission, as I watched you coming out, to give me permission to go, you know what? Yeah, this is amazing. Yes, I can step into that. Yes, I can do this interview with you. Yes, I can talk about this.
Yeah. And I'm so happy you did. And, you know, you made a really, really important point about Shakti power. And people say, well, what is that? Because actually it's not a concept. Of course, we have to use words to describe things, but it's actually not a mental construct. Shakti is an energy. It's a feeling that you feel in your body. And the more that we're in our body, the more we feel it. The more that we practice trusting our intuition, the more it will rise. And it feels like a surging of energy. It really feels like a surging of energy that helps us to, you know, take the action we need to, or to stop and rest. It guides us in our lives. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a really beautiful way to describe it. And, you know, I think this is a really nice place to end, unless you have something else you'd like to share just as a finish up.
Yeah, just one more thing. I think for people to understand also where we can bring that into our general, because you think of creativity. I don't think I'm an artist. You don't think this. The way I've learned also to bring that beautiful power into my life is how I dress. It's what makeup. I make sure I don't wear makeup, but it's about how do you bring it, how you set your table, how do you have your home, how do you use your words, what earrings, jewelry do you wear. So if because at the moment the concept can feel too big again. Again, it's that, oh my God, but I'm not an artist. I'm not this. I'm not that. No, 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 no. Bring it right back to right here. I love wearing color. So I love expressing myself through color. I mean, I have enough scarves and sarongs that my partner would just freaks, every time we go up to Bali or somewhere, he goes to Sri Lanka to visit his sister. Could you just bring me another scarf color, please? So what I'm sharing with you is this, that is also that beautiful feminine power, energy, like you said, to bring it, and it makes you just feel alive. So what can you do today to make you feel alive and step into that beautiful energy that we all have, that we just need to reclaim?
Wonderful. I love it. And there's a playfulness to it too. And that's another element of our Shakti creative power. That innate energy is playful. So yeah, it's really encouraging that. And I love what you're saying. And I love color too. And I think that, just focusing on those small things are very meaningful. So I
Yes,
want you to,
that's right.
before we end, I just want you to share with the audience how they can get in touch with you and look at more about what you do and what you're sharing. And of course, I'll put those in the notes so that people have them.
Thank you. My main focus is I'm on Facebook, and I have a Facebook page, Unfold Your Freedom. I'd love you to come and join me and have a look there. I do have a website, and I do have an email database, and I offer beautiful ebooks to support you in how to meditate, be mindful, create your sacred space. So if you're interested in that, it's on my website, or just contact me through Facebook and I can send you the link to that. That will get you onto my database if you wish. And I just send out things that just to keep us connected to who we are. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, Aesha, to share that with people. And if you love my feed comics, it's just, I love bringing color and joy and support to you all, knowing that we are together in this.
We are one, and we are one beautiful consciousness.
Yes.
And we are here to support, collaborate, include one another. And that is what true power is. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye for
Thank you.
now.
Bye.